Hello, dear colleagues. Hello, dear friends. Before I start my presentation, I know it's difficult after lunch, after the coffee break. I want to ask you to stand up, please. All of you, without no exception. I know it's difficult, but Eminem say that we have to stand up, right? All of you. Thank you. And I just want to ask you some questions. And if you agree with the question, with the statement, take a seat. 3 questions. First question. If you think that cancer or catastrophes kill more people than cyber attacks, take your seat. I repeat the question. Okay. If you think that catastrophe or cancer kill more people than cyber attack, take your seat. The second question. If you think that cyber attack can kill a man, and this is another scenario for a blockbuster, take your seat. Okay, few of the skeptics here. The last question. If you think that your personal medical record right now is in safe place, take your seat. There are a few skeptics, guys, like me. And please take your seat. And I try to show you, and I try to break your skepticism, and try to show you how our smart city can kill people, can store your medical data, and how our smart connected medicine becomes stupid. And I want to start from the sad statistic. This is an old school statistic like 4 or 2 years ago, but it is still actual. 300,000 people die annually in the United States only due to medical records errors and due to doctors' mistakes. This is the 3rd reason of death in the United States only. And as I said, these numbers always increased. So, and the wrong diagnostic is not a main reason of death. And low qualification of doctor is not the main reason. The wrong therapeutical procedures and tactical procedures, this is main reason of death. So it happens because our medicine becomes connected. And a few years ago, at the largest industry medical event, we are predicted that the number of incidents in medicine will be increased. And this year and the last year is not an exception. We have seen a lot of news, newspapers, a lot of presentations when attackers try to exfiltrate the medical data from the medical record networks or try to encrypt the medical data and try to pay the ransom, or how they try to use open source intelligence to find something medical in medical infrastructure. So a number of incidents, leakages, breaches will be increased this year too. It becomes reality because the medicine is connected. It's a smart nowadays. What I mean smart and connected? There are a lot of huge machines like MRI, CT, cardiographs, whatever else. They are connected to the classic TCP/IP networks. Or, if it's old school style of machines, they're connected to the computers using proprietary protocols, but those computers connected to the TCP/IP network. In most of cases, these networks, medical networks, connected to the PACS servers. PACS, it's something like the NAS storage in your flat. You know what is a NAS, of course. So it's a special storage, PACS, it's a special storage for medical pictures, for DICOM pictures, for medical purposes, for the doctors. And sometimes you can find these PACS servers and even these MRI machines available for everyone and connected to the internet. I don't know why, but it's still actual. For example, if you open Sensis or Shodan or ZoomEye or whatever else, or Google, you will find that if you use the keywords DICOM is a protocol for medical exchange, data exchange, and the special port, you will find the tons of DICOM servers. Probably some of them are honeypots, but anyway, you will find something interesting there. And this is a sad statistic that almost more than 1,000 servers, DICOM servers, available for everyone, with the personal medical data, with the ability to spoof information, with the ability to steal information there. This is not an exception when you try to find something like SMB protocol using the shutdown and a keyword like medical, clinical, or something like that, plus SMB protocol, you can find a lot of interesting information related to the topology of medical networks or medical facilities or pharmacy facilities. This is useful info for targeted attacks, for lateral movement, for, I don't know, for initialization stage, etc. Or, if you prefer, if you're a pen tester or security consultant, you will see that if you get an order, please make some security assessment for me from the doctor or from the medical facility. You will see a lot of interesting stuff inside in the network. This stuff not related to the business processes. There are a lot of services that you can recognize that it's probably useful not only for doctors. Half-life engine in the network. This is a real case, real scenario. When we ask for what do you need the half-life, doctors say that, I'm a man, I'm a human, I just want to spend the time on lunch somehow. Okay, doc. And using this information, you can move laterally to the sensitive servers inside, because it's not difficult to recognize which is for medical purposes, which is for just a classic TCP/IP machine, like classic endpoint. And this info that I've crawled from the shutdown, I've crawled from the real security assessments, propose the two questions for me. What is the threat landscape currently? Threat landscape for medical and pharmaceutical organization. It's the first question. And second question is, what already happens there? What kind of malware, what kind of targeted attacks in the active stage right now in medicine? And to provide the answer, how the cybercrime appears in the medical networks, I've tried to make some reconnaissance using the mass scan. I just extract the IP addresses for all organizations, all IP ranges that contain the keywords medical, clinical, healthcare, surgery, etc. in the network name. I extract the tons of IP addresses and I launch the scan and map scan to identify which ports are open there. I've received, like after a few weeks of scanning, I received the huge report that I've tried to parse, and I've just recognized what is the most popular ports in medical networks, open ports. Of course, it's the classical ports like web applications, DNS, mail servers, etc., etc. But I think this is a tip of iceberg. The most interesting part is the bottom of the statistic. It's the strange ports that I've extract and using the tool ZTag that recognize the banner of the service. And this tool just mapped the banner of the service to the category of what kind of devices or what kind of software behind this port. And I've seen that there's something embedded. I've tried to make some scan again and just see that there are a lot of interesting stuff like building information, automation systems, like SCADA printers, FTPs. So this is a strange. And I think that a good point to start the research, what behind this embedded stuff. And let's start from the building automation system. I think our modern buildings like this one, like this hotel or this venue, contain the building automation. What is that? It's the huge router that probably is something under the floor that connects different kinds of systems. Light system, power system, conditioner system, water, and classic TCP IP network in the one router. And we know some researchers, like 2 years ago, present at a different conference, that guy can plug into the power socket, plug his stuff, and can send the command to the TCP IP network using the issues in this router. That's interesting. So I've started to scan for the building automation system in medical organization, and I've identified that there are no actual version, no updated version at all. You can find the critical exploits using the public databases like CVE or ExploitDB, and it will work. Or look on this stuff. This is a printer. Printer on the medical perimeter without any authentication and authorization. You can just connect it to this, and then you can extract some stuff from the printing pool, probably some sensitive documents or name of the documents. Or you can use, if the printer is modern printer connected to the Wi-Fi, you can use the printer for lateral movement, like initial stage of targeted attack. Or look at this port, port 2000. If you try to Google what is that, you will discover that some medical, healthcare, clinical organization have this stuff on the perimeter. What do you think? What is that? It's most popular in the United States because this is a smart kettle that's quite popular in the United States. And this kettle located on the perimeter. And this kettle has some public available exploits that allows you to connect using the Bluetooth and password 6 zeros. Then you can extract the Wi-Fi connection account from the embedded system easily, and you can use this kettle like a start point for targeted attack through the medical Wi-Fi network. Or in medicine, there are a lot of proprietary mobile devices like electroretinograph. It's difficult to pronounce. Electroretinograph. What is that? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but as far as I know, it's the thing that allows you to scan the retina of your eye, and then it proceeds some kind of diagnostic for your state, body state. And then, based on your retina, it generates the PDF report. Then you can plug this stuff to your computer using the USB, and generated report will be exported from the electroretinograph to your PC. And that's it. It's quite simple. But you can find the firmware for the electroretinograph. You can easily extract the firmware, and you will see a lot of interesting binaries, proprietary binaries, that precede not only retina, but also the QR code from the patient record, classic patient paper record. It's just to build the PDF report, and that's it. You scan the retina of the patient, you scan the QR code of the patient, and that's it. You compile the report using this stuff. But if you try to reverse what happens when you scan the QR code, you will see that there are no sanitization of scanning, and as a result, you can build the malicious QR code and create the malicious PDF report that will be spread around the doctors and medical facility. I think that's a mostly theoretical scenario, but it still could happen. Or look at this port, MQTT protocol. What is MQTT? MQTT is the special communication protocol between IoTs. So you don't need a human, you don't need the classic PC to communicate between, for example, smart bulb and a smart kettle. And there are a lot of, in the medical facilities, a lot of MQTT-based things. For example, if I'm administrator, I can create the simple scenario using MQTT. If my I'm using my smart blood pressure, and if my pressure is too low, please turn off the light. So it's an example of this scenario. And using the MQTT syntax, you can find a lot of interesting stuff like spirometers, blood pressures, and you will find even something interesting in morgue. This is a real case that we found using the Shodan in Ireland. I don't know for what, I don't know what is that, probably it's a honeypot, I hope it's a honeypot, but it's still available online without any authentication because MQTT doesn't support any authentication authorization. Or there are a lot of web portals, web applications with strange things, with this kind of vulnerability. Where's the vulnerability, guys? You don't need to be the web application security expert to identify that it's vulnerable. Any ideas? Come on. Where is the username and password? You just press login button and you will see the internal side of medical portals that the doctors used to proceed the diagnostic and to provide the report for the patient. And there are lots of sensitive data, like DICOM image of the body parameters of the patient, a lot of personal medical data of the patient, and of course, if you cybercrime, you can spoof this stuff, you can steal, of course, You can delete it, you can encrypt it, and just to pay the ransom, waiting for the ransom payment, etc. So this is a real scenario, this is a real data. And this is available online without any authentication. So, but it's just entry point. It's just the threat landscape, where is the open doors in medical networks. But what already happens there? And if you are an attacker, if you're a cybercrimer, you try to decide extract as much revenue as possible from your victim. And when you try to get in the medical organization, you of course try to exfiltrate the sensitive data, and then you just try to encrypt the medical data for the ransomware payment. And this is a statistics that was extracted with my colleagues in Kaspersky Lab that demonstrate a lot of medical organizations attacked by ransomware. And I think this is a trivial statistic, not only actual for the medical organizations, but only, of course, for any kind of and any level of business. Or this kind of statistics. What kind of malware is in active mode in medical infrastructure? And there are a lot of hack tools for the penetration testers. And it means 2 points, probably. 1 point, that medical organization spend the budgets for cybersecurity. They hire the experts or security consultants to provide some security assessment report. Or the second point, that somebody tried to craft and to build his own malware using this tool and try to infect the victims, the medical organizations. And I think the second point is more actual. That's why we have detected a lot of open-net stuff like meterpreters, a lot of payloads that exist online. And the site statistics told us that mostly all of medical organizations was attacked by trivial malware like banking trojans, meterpreters, etc., etc. And if we try to decompose this statistic for the mapping the statistic to the map, to the countries, we will see that the Philippines, Venezuela, etc., the countries is most popular for attacking, for the attacking of medical organization. And if you ask me why, I've just used the Google for that, and I see that Philippines and Venezuela, they have the low budgets for cybersecurity. I don't know how the statistics correlate with the real world, but it depends on how many budgets they spend for public sector and cybersecurity in public sector. And of course, in Philippines, probably this statistic is not actual for nowadays, but anyway, it's correlate using the budget for cybersecurity. But we are talking about medical organization. With the pharmaceutical organization, it's a different picture. Because the pharmaceutical, it doesn't mean medical. Pharmaceutical organization works with the intellectual property, with the pills, with development of a lot of intellectual stuff. That's why they're in the main priority for the attackers, more than medical. And this kind of statistics correlate with the GDP of the country. If GDP depends on medicine, Bangladesh, Morocco, I think more than 15% of GDP related to the export of pills and drugs. So that's why it's interesting country, interesting objects for cybercrime. And if you ask me, have you find something interesting, not like meterpreters, not like classic stuff like Trojans, something targeted that in active mode in medical organization? The answer is yes. During this quick research, we found that some Chinese-speaking actors who developed the malware plugins, you can find the reports, they also infected the organization in Vietnam and Bangladesh. Using the trivial vulnerabilities in web servers on the perimeter, they infected the internal resources, and they're looking for something interesting for them. Business plans of pharmaceutical organization, formulas, intellectual properties, a lot of interesting stuff. And in context of doping scandals, etc., I think this attention of attackers to the pharmaceutical organization will be increased. And the main conclusion for this kind of research is just some kind of advice for the guys, for the DevOps or administrators who works in the medical and pharmaceutical facilities. It's what we have to do with this kind of vulnerabilities. And there are lots of interesting advices and a lot of trivial advices that we can provide for these guys together, like please isolate your sensitive stuff, sensitive device like MRI, CTs, or stuff with sensitive data, with intellectual property, with electronic medical records, isolated from the internet, isolated from the perimeter, of course, or use the encryption. Encrypt your sensitive business information before you will be encrypted by ransomware, etc. So this is trivial recommendations, but who cares? And I think the main stage for any kind of organization is just to identify the attack surface for your perimeter, for your organization. That's why we have developed, me and my colleagues developed the simple tool set for the guys who involved in system administrative activities of medical organizations to identify the perimeter and identify the attack surface related to the perimeter. It's a simple tool, but we are almost ready to launch the tool. So just, for example, how you can be involved, just send me an email, who are you, and we will provide access to the tool that you can share the tool with your colleagues in medical facilities. It's the OpenIt. It's OpenIt initiative. Use the invite code of our conference to make some registration stuff. But anyway, what will happen in the future? I think the connected and smart medicine will transform from this stuff with MRI and CTs available on internet to the human SCADA systems. When your body consists of a lot of sensors, a lot of implants that communicates directly with the infrastructure of the vendor or with the medical organization, that you can, based on big data and machine analysis, this kind of clouds will provide for you the actual settings for this, in real time settings for the sensors and for the implants. And I think the small piece of the future already here, because this is a typical infrastructure for the implant patients right now. So this is the three main layers: the patient with the implants, the clinics who implemented these implants and use the programmers or controllers to make some settings using the radio frequency for these implants, and the infrastructure for data collection, like classical medical portals, electronic medical records, medical viewers, DCOM viewers, and PAC viewers, etc. So this infrastructure of future, infrastructure of human SCADA, will be founded based on current solutions. And already we have the electronic medical portals, the huge products that allows you to manage electronic medical records of the patient, manage your activity. If you're a doctor, you can plan your schedule, you can correct the portion of pills, of drugs for the patients, etc. And you will see the statistics, open statistic of the market of electronic medical portals, that it will be increased, and most of them will be web-based portals. And if you try to use the Shodan, you already can identify some electronic medical portals with login, with username and password, but still available for everyone, because doctor anymore, it's not necessary to work at the office. You can work from home and just proceed some pictures, medical pictures, proceed there. So that's why it's quite useful for medical organization. But the open source is the key success for medical organization right now, because medical facilities and pharmaceutical facilities, they have no budget for in-house developers or for in-house system administrators. That's why most of them choose the open source solution. And if you try to identify some market, open source market for medical portals, you will see that there are two big products. It's not only there, but there are a lot of interesting stuff, but most of them are popular, like Open EMR, Electronic Medical Records, or Open Medical Record System, something like that. They're open sourced, they have a lot of support from the community, and they have a lot of certificates. And for example, if you try to look at the OpenEMR installations using the Shodan, you will see that they're installed around the world. So for the attacker, is the tidbit. Because if you find some critical vulnerability in the medical portal, like RCE or SQL injection, or whatever else, you can get access to a lot of medical information. And I've just started to, before the conference, I've just started to look what happens with the trivial stuff, and I was needed like 10 minutes to identify that there are no any sanitization of user input. So it's just an example with OpenEMR. Like if you're an attacker, you can insert arbitrary code on the page, and it's a classic cross-site scripting scenario. Or this night, I've looked at an OpenMRS system, and it's the same. Nothing is filtered, nothing is not sanitized, and if you're an attacker, you of course can steal something, but cross-site scripting is a little bit difficult for exploitation. You need to use the social engineering attack, but it's still possible. It means that this organization don't have any secure SDL lifecycle during the development process. And this is another example of known vulnerability that leads to remote code execution on the server. So if you're an attacker, you don't just need to craft the XML-based payload with some kind of commands. For example, this command is to launch the calculator. You send the request, and calculator is launched. That's it. So RCE, using the vulnerability with the insecure deserialization. You can find more information about these vulns using the CVEs. It means not only that, it doesn't mean that developers or guys who involved in development of these open source products, they are has a low qualification. No, they're experienced guys. But I think they have no process of secure development that allows you to proceed assessments for each stage of the development. You need to create the assessment for your code. You need to create assessment for your binaries. You need a black box, white box. If you create the products for this kind of purposes, you have to create the SDL for them. And I think together, as an expert, we have to involve as much as possible, involve a lot of people who is developer, who is involved to deploy or for DevOps operations in medical organizations, and to share with them our experience, how we can mitigate the threats before the product will be on the market. And like a conclusion, we have a lot of interesting technologies around the world right now that based on machine learning, threat intelligence, artificial intelligence, a lot of buzzwords there. But it can't be effective if people click on the phishing link, right? Because the social engineering attack still exists. Let me illustrate what I mean. And I really love the video because it's a beautiful illustration of exploitation of the vulnerability in our DNA. And nowadays, it's only one patch for this vulnerability. This is education. That's why we are here, right? Thank you. If you have a question, feel free to ask.
Okay, so we have 25 minutes, so we have a lot of time to questions, so don't hesitate. I'm going to run, so to be faster.
Hello. Regarding the medical records that you were able to find, I think that there is a lot of regulation regarding that. So if it is public, I would say either the hospital and even the hardware or the developers of the hardware, they should be fined really hardly, no? There is no feedback from the hospital or something like this that they close the door and then that's all.
They're just like a black hole. You send some request for them and doesn't care because I don't know who's my system administrator. I don't know why it is deployed there. But I think the main contact point for us, like for researchers, is the developers of this open EMR system or the system administrators. And the regulators currently is not so effective, but I think the situation will be improved. Currently, I think the United States organizations like FDA, they try to build some security strategy around for the medical organizations, but it's like first stage for them. So I think worldwide the situation, it's worth. So we have to improve it using the contact or using the tools that allows them to control the perimeter or to control the attack surface and to educate them. So I think currently it's only 3 strategies for us how to improve the situation. Educate, control, and submit some findings.
And public same should not work because in that case, if you make public this data,
related,
it's not only like, you encrypt the data and you ask for money. It's like you don't need to encrypt the data. You get the data and then you say, if you don't give me money, I will make it public that I got it from you.
Yep. It's not a good case, but it works because when just the story related to open EMR. When I found some critical vulns there, I've tried to extract some contacts of the owners of the organization, and they have no any public emails on their website. They have no any contacts using the Twitter because they have Twitter handle, but they're still in silent mode. I've decided just to publish information without any technical details, publish information that, guys, I found some vulnerabilities there. Just here's an example. And after that, the guy who was involved in developing process, he've seen the tweet. And after that, he asked me, what kind of vulnerabilities, how can I help you? So sometimes it's helpful, but it's not so good when you have to private discussion with them.
Thank you for your presentation. I just saw some numbers on your previous slides, and I want to make sure I correctly interpret them before relaying them over. So it says in most countries, about 60% of medical devices